as you guys are prone to do, inspired me. And over spring break, I had a group of students ask for my commentary on Black Panther. So I went ahead and went and saw Black Panther. And it was perfect timing because I had just lectured in my film class on Leni Riefenstahl and the fascist aesthetic. And maybe the week before I had done Metropolis. And here I am, and I literally walked out of the movie and thought, nobody told me we were going to see Metropolis. Nobody said we were going to see Metropolis. And my students looked at me like, why do you think this is Metropolis? Let me explain. Let me explain why I think Black Panther is the most fascist movie that I've seen in a very long time. And concerning for multiple reasons. To begin with, and I think I've said this before, I definitely think that the existence and the success of Black Panther will obliterate the history of the actual Black Panthers. Google searches and how Google searches are done with your own individual search being assigned to you. And I think within maybe a year, 2 years, if you type in Black Panther into a Google search, you will only find a movie. How will you find the original Black Panther movement? So this is one of my concerns. And so yes, this may be a little bit paranoid. However, I do think of my observations of your guys' generation, the sophomores that I've seen, the Black American historical connection to Islam has been largely and deliberately marginalized. So in the late 80s, as you saw, we had Public Enemy screaming at America, most of my heroes don't appear on No Stamp. And they also said, Farrakhan's a prophet, that I think you ought to listen to. And we were reminded of the actual Black Panthers with the S1Ws, with their beret-wearing, militarized presence. I would venture to say currently 80% of my sophomores do not remember in emotional detail Hurricane Katrina. They've grown up in post-September 11th America, and my estimation is their idea about Black American history revolves around whitewashed MLK and gangster rap, and that the nuances within there have been largely lost from what I can tell. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I do think that the radicalized, suppressed history of Black American separatism, of course, spearheaded by Malcolm X, has been both marginalized and almost deliberately forgotten about. At the same time, it provides the ideological support for Black Panther, right? Isn't this a Black separatist sort of fantasy, right? So without this fantasy of Black separatism being suppressed, I don't think we would have the movie Black Panther. So this isn't a new idea. If we look at Barth with semiotics and the idea of myth, when you have a suppressed ideology, frequently it provides the hidden ideological undercurrent for something else. In the way the swastika actually means peace in India. Oh, you just move it around a little bit. It means something totally different. Yet it's not that the meaning in India doesn't lend support to what Hitler did with the swastika. That hidden sort of suppressed meaning lends support. So I'm arguing here that the suppressed history of militant Black separatism in America is supplying this ideological support for the movie Black Panther, yet it's completely misguided. I don't think that it is a success at all. I think it's wildly false. So as far as I can tell. The simple presence of a primarily Black cast is being largely heralded as some sort of a win in America's current unthinking. I would like to reference here Hannah Arendt. I believe we are being strongly encouraged to not think critically, that anti-intellectualism is running rampant as it is wont to do under proto-fascist time periods, which obviously I think we are in. So we're having this hysterical explosion of identity politics, but I'm arguing we should have a deeper engagement or flip these emotional outbursts of identity politics into feelingless class struggle as soon as possible. This is what we should be doing. Forget about Me Too. Forget about ethnic politics. It's all irrelevant. It does not matter. Let's remember that MLK was killed when he was leading the Poor People's March, when he was becoming vocal about Vietnam. Right? This is the truth that the puppeteers, the dominant paradigm is happy for us to play identity politics. Right? That theater of struggle, the idea that we could somehow be talking about male, female stuff, ethnic this, ethnic that, it feeds into the dominant paradigm. It doesn't disrupt it. So I would argue, no, let's just more aggressively talk about class struggle and put all these other issues aside, if that's what we're going to do. So let's go back to the film's narrative treatment and its visual choices. I'm going to say it achieves what Sontag warned. It fascinates us. And I'm referencing here her article, Fascinating Fascism, where she pretty much attacks, effectively, Leni Riefenstahl, Hitler's filmmaker, and says, look, it doesn't matter that she just made fascist films for Hitler. All of her aesthetics are fascist, right? Her film on Hitler, obviously fascist. Triumph of the Will. Her film on Olympia, fascist. Her photographs of the Nuba, fascist. And Sontag goes through and she draws out a map of what the fascist aesthetic actually is. Now I'm just going to go ahead and skip down here to what that criteria is, so we kind of, those of you guys who have been in my film class, know exactly what we're talking about here. So these are the bullet points for when you're looking at something that is visually fascist. Not now, the actual narrative I'll return to. But let's just spend a minute talking about the visuals of the film and what Sontag is saying the criteria points are for the fascist aesthetic. 1, preoccupations with situations of control, submissive behavior, extravagant effort, the endurance of pain, egomania and servitude, domination and enslavement take the forms of pageantry, the massing of people, turning people into objects, the multiplication of things, ceaseless motion and congealed static virile posing, and the cult of mostly masculine body beautiful. If you don't see it in the movie, you're not looking hard enough. Right? It's all there. Every single one of them. Check, 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 check. And I would further, we have this other, I think, almost more modern in an old sort of way, idea that we also saw in Avatar of the merging of people, animals, and technology. That this is also something that, again, the proto-fascist Italian futurists were very fond of. The same idea, right? So this idea, we should be skeptical of it, I would say. Now, returning to what the narrative of what the film actually has to say and why I'm arguing it's fascist, let's just go through it. I have, I think, some bullet points. Now, again, I'm stripping out mostly the identity politics from the situation, and I'm going to try and attempt a more purely capitalist critique of what's going on here. Why am I calling this movie fascist, not only in its imagery, but also in the message that it's sending? Let's look at the narrative. 1, inherited wealth and inherited social ruling status, only marginally challenged, is the superior form of government. Isn't this what, is it Wakanda? What is this fake country? Wakanda? Wakanda, right? Okay, so in fake Wakanda, in utopian Wakanda that doesn't exist, you have a society which the wealth is concentrated into the 1%. And this is the preferred way that a society should be. If you concentrate all that wealth within a very small 1% of the society. The society works best when the rulers are in control of the society's power source. Isn't that the whole thing? So this 1% has complete control over the power source, essentially the oil, right? Or whatever's making the electricity, whatever. No, let the 1% control all of it. Things will be better. What, vibranium? What is it? Is that right? Okay, it's vibranium. It sounds so sexual, doesn't it? I mean, in a certain kind of way. Also present in this narrative is a high degree of economic hierarchy is actually a pluralistic, free-choosing utopia for the people. There's no evidence that anyone in the society wished to change their station, zero class struggle, yet images are included of herders, low-level workers. So you see these people as we're zooming through Wakanda. It's not like everybody's wealthy. These people are depicted as being enthusiastic about their lower station in life. There's no evidence that they're unhappy with this. They love being herders and being ruled by, a 1%. No problem whatsoever. So even the challenger to the throne is submissive and ultimately an agent for the king in the end, right? Like within the society. Such a society would engender an integrated, again, utopian vision wherein human, I mentioned this before, human and nature with the addition of technology creates a fused, heightened human. I first mentioned these ideas in an article I published in Communication Theory on the Italian Futurists. If you're interested in this idea of blending with technology, I think, again, it's relevant in that I do believe we're moving towards some type of society where there's an uber class. There's a class of humans who, fused with technology, are superior to everybody else, and that they can accomplish this through money, right? We see it with surgeries, with the addition, with technological supplements. It's already, to some extent, happening. And if we take out if we further the logic that's already happening, isn't it going to be that the elite that has the technology will have the internet and the information, right? So again, it's interesting who's going to have this blended version with technology. Who's going to have this utopian, oh, I get to get on an animal and zoom around because we're blended together with the aid of technology. We all want that. But in this utopian society, do we all have that? I remain skeptical. All right. So again, and then we get into some more problems here that I have. This vision of Wakanda is ethnically homogeneous, right? They're all the same. They're all the same amount of black. They're all black. They're all speaking in a fake African accent or a real African accent, but mostly fake. And why is this okay? I desperately want some African critics to critique this film and the appropriation of an actually African accent that's being utilized by these Hollywood actors. I digress. The real issue I have here is that the entire population is the same. It's homogeneous, and again, it's like a nod to black separatism, right? Is that black separatism is a great way to be. Right? If they're just all separated, things can function great. I don't know. So we have this ethnically homogeneous society, but the society has tribal classifications. So there's different tribes, but they're the same ethnicity. And I would say this is not different from Triumph of the Will, Leni Riefenstahl's film about Hitler, where there's a part where there's the different Nazis calling out the different regions. Hamburg, Cologne, right? Like it's Munich, right? So they're ethnically the same, yet they have their different regions of Germany that they're coming from, united under the fascist umbrella. Okay, so then we also have the message here that ultimately it's superior for society to isolate and concentrate the wealth to the 1%. The tiny power base is benevolent. Here we go, ... because of their feeling. And this is the fascist message over and over again, is that let your heart speak. Let your feeling, if you just go ahead and shut your intellect up, don't think about it, just enjoy the ride, enjoy your Germanness, enjoy what it means it's essentializing. It's essentializing. It's saying that if you just go ahead and surrender to your heart-based emotions and shut your head up, things will work out just fine. But you do need to quiet your intellect in order to have this happen. And what I'm saying is, we should rid discourse of any kind that is predicated on feelings immediately. This is something that's happening, again, it's happening on my Facebook page as we speak, where people, in response to these lecture notes, are attacking me on the basis of their feelings, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a movie that I liked. Shut up. Essentially, why are you trying to politicize a movie? I'm like, people, come on. They're all political, that's why. It's never not been political. All of our popular media has always been political. Why is there this backlash against even trying to approach this movie from a critical perspective? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it's totally based on people's feelings. And I don't want anybody to use feelings as arguments anymore in scholarship or discourse. When did we start letting this happen? I don't care about your guys' feelings. Do you care about mine? I hope not. Like, it's not a place for that. You're not safe. There's no trigger warnings. I hope I terrorize you. This is what academia should be. I don't understand when this changed. Again, let's think about it. Hitler had feelings. You know, he was very nice to his dogs. He was so nice to his dogs. He was a vegetarian. He was nice to Eva in his own way. Whatever you want to say, if you bring it down to the level of feeling, then what you're ultimately doing is you're opening up the space for somebody to say, you know what, I know what you're saying about those Latinos is true, but I just don't feel comfortable when I'm around them. And that gets to be a legitimate argument once you open feelings up to being integrated into public discourse. No, I don't care about your feelings about if you feel comfortable or not sitting next to somebody else. Should I? Is this something that we should care about? I hope not. I hope we radically stop caring about feelings and people's comfort level as soon as we possibly can. Because for most of us, we're not comfortable. The vast majority of the time, we're not comfortable. If you're a minority, if you're a person of color, if you're a woman, you know what I mean? Like, so why this, all of a sudden, this need to insist that people be comfortable? No, I would argue let's not. Let's make people less comfortable. Would be my route. So again, going back to Hitler, he called on Germans to connect to their feelings about their Germanness and to abort their intellect. This was key to the fascist plan. And I would argue, and I don't need to argue it because it's factual, anytime intellect is denigrated in this way in favor of feeling, it is usually the backdrop for atrocities. So when you look at a society that all of a sudden starts using feeling as a legitimate platform, then what you end up with is look a little closer and there's Guantanamo Bay and black ops happening just off scene. Right? It's a terrible negotiating place. We have to bring in the cold light of logic to these issues. Let's see here. Okay, so let's talk about the proper black people, the Wakandans. Right? They represent the proper blackness in this movie. And they have it in their favor. Maybe we wouldn't accept this fake society of a 1% complete monopoly on all the money and the technology, except for, guess what? They have good feelings, right? They have good feelings. And the end, all of them, even the ancestral king that you think maybe did this bad thing, all of them end up being vindicated if they're proper Wakandans, if they're proper black people. There's only one person who's not redeemed in the movie. There's only one black person who's not redeemed in the movie. We'll get to him soon. But again, let's look at these proper black people. They're good because they have compassion. They're good because they stay isolated. They're good because they don't care at all about what white people are doing in the world. And this sort of neo-polis that we're looking at, I don't see any Asians or Polynesians or Latinos. They're irrelevant populations that don't matter in anybody's framework at all. So that's what we have going on there. In the end, the ethical stance is portrayed as remaining isolated while colonizing, helping global black populations. Like that, isn't that how the movie ends? The good ruling elite are going to provide charity into the global black populations. And this is somehow going to solve all the problems of the world concerning blackness. This is amazing. The film even presents the W. Year's rationale for American Central, the Middle East intervention, also the American intervention in Central American prior, the illegal overthrow of the peaceful autonomous Hawaii, and so it goes. To paraphrase the line, the logic, it's our monster, so we have to take care of it. We created it, so we must destroy it. This is over and over again used as the rationale for an American military intervention, and yet the Wakandans are doing it. Right? Is this not some sort of inverse logic? Are we not being given the same type of solution? So let's take a quick look at gender. I think there was a lot of people that are excited about the violent women. I really would like to critique this going back quite some time. here we have, again, the female equation of physical violence equaling agency. So, and this has been emerging from Tomb Raider to even in the Da Vinci Code, in the movie version, not the book. The descendant of Jesus is shown killing a man. And she's shown as being heroic in her ability to kill a man. Like, she's a tough broad, right? Like, this is the kind of the message we've been given for about 17 years. Is that equality for women means your ability to embrace being violent and to kill, right? This presents a lot of ethical problems, particularly when they're not doing anything about changing the coordinates of power. So let's take a little look at this gender neutral Wakanda and what's really going on here. So, essentially, in Black Panther, why is it so crucial that the best female general and an elite female brigade whose precise militarism, lack of individuality, and costuming clearly fit Sontag's criteria, why is it crucial for her to 2 times declare that her real master is the seat of power, not an individual? She's not loyal to an individual king. The general is loyal to the seat of power, even to her own emotional detriment. Remember, she refuses her lover in the end because she's so loyal to whoever's going to be in the seat of power. But it's not a personal identification for her. It's a submissive identification. As an empowered woman, her place is to defer to the true seat of power, which is whoever is the king. Is this gender equality? I'm not quite sure. I think it's something a little bit different. So let's see here. So yeah, again, it's not relevant to her who occupies the throne. Her nationalism is unwavering. To comment further on gender, the only truly brilliant, emancipated female is royal. Your Ivanka, if you will, right? Like, she's the only one in the movie who actually is independent and individual, a genius, kind of truly emancipated, is the sister. Like, no one else. Let's go a little bit further. Well, then we have the love interest of the king. In the normative ending, which you can tell what a movie's ideology is by how it brings everything together in the end. You know, how are things renormalized in the end? Well, for her, the love interest of the king relinquishes some of her autonomy in order to be with him. Isn't that what we need to do? I mean, isn't this the real lesson? But I would go even further. Cut her out of the movie. It doesn't matter. She doesn't even need to be there. And this is sort of film studies 101, that if the romance is not there, then you can almost bet it's sort of fascist cinema. And why is that? It's because romantic love is anti-fascism. It's individuality. Like, you don't fall in love with the seat of power. You fall in love with an individual, right? So actual, real romantic love is about individuality. It is the counter to fascism. Right? There's something very powerful and very strong about romantic love. And of course, it's not even necessary to this narrative. Cut her out of the movie. It doesn't even matter. We don't even need her there, really, in the end. And I would say this very marginalization of the romantic narrative, again, leads to the overall fascist idea. So it's totally superfluous to the story that there's even a romance. I don't even think there's sex in this movie. Is there even sex? Is there even... Like, not even really, right? It's not necessary, because what's really on display is masculinity, or feminized masculinity, and the cult of the body beautiful in a masculine, violent way. That's really what's more important. Now, let's go back to some more ethnic depictions. I'm becoming more and more skeptical about the cheap trick of demonizing the white male. Right? It's beginning to wear on me. Now again, I live in colonized Hawaii, so when there's a white man who's told, colonizer, you can't speak here, and everybody barks at him, I like it. It's fun. It's a good emotional cheap trick. But let's just read a little bit further into this. Like, is this not some type of pandering? Is this not some sort of cheap sacrificial lamb that these white men are playing in this movie, the two of them or something like that? I would argue there's something disturbing going on there. Yes, even the rough barking of this tribe was fun, but are we no longer concerned with what used to be called the animalization of the black male? Like from King Kong in film studies, this has been something that film theorists and cultural theorists have been concerned with. The linking together of black people with animals. And you'll see this in print media and advertisements. You'll see black women portrayed as panthers or leopards to sell jewelry. I mean, this type of animalization of the African Americans has been routinely critiqued. And yet all of a sudden in this film, it's de guerre. Everyone is animalized in Wakanda. Everyone. Not just the Black Panther, right? Every single person who's portrayed is in some way linked to an animal. I don't know. I'm just saying what I see. So again, do we give this movie a pass because it's in the comic universe in which people are turned into things all the time? Or is this just an implication that they're Africans and so therefore they're closer to African animals, leading us metonymically to essentially a Lion King version of reality in human form? I'm going to ask you to look up, if you're interested in this, look up Zizek's critique of the Lion King. And he'll easily tell you, oh, the circle of life is for the lion to eat, go ahead and eat the wildebeest. It's natural. It's natural for the strong to prey on the weak. It's the circle of life. It's the circle of life. Come on. I mean, it's not that different, right? It really is a similar sort of economy that we're dealing with. So I think there's some version of both, yet I lean in favor of the second reading that links black people and animals, because, again, it's not just linked to the hero and the villain. Like when we're dealing with Batman's universe or whatever, usually those superheroes, they're restricted. And then there's the people who don't have these type of turning into things or turning into, it just doesn't happen. But in Wakanda, everyone, right? Everyone has these cross links. They're either turned into something fascist, like the female brigade, or they're linked to some type of animal markings of some variety. Nobody's immune, and then we almost kind of don't notice it because then there's the actual Black Panther who gets the fancy suit, the technology, the blending of the animal, the technological, and the human in the form of the Black Panther suit. So let's see. Again, here we have the proper black person. We have this idea of proper blackness, and the proper blackness are linked to animals. They're hierarchical, and they're largely isolationist. These are how proper black people are described in this movie. And yet, included within this perfected, masculine-dominated, nationalistic vision of blackness is an ideology of not only refraining from integration, but also insisting on separatism. Isn't that what they do in Wakanda? They insist on being separatists, right? So, is this what Malcolm had in mind? I don't think so. I deeply want to trouble this idea. I don't think that there's... And in fact, what I can imagine is American white nationalists relishing the idea of an invisible, isolated, non-threatening black world that concerns itself not at all with the global white community, only other black populations around the globe. And I think the charity solution should be troubled. This idea that there could even be a fantasized, wealthy, I don't know, let's make it Jay-Z and Beyonce. Let's go ahead and pretend that there is this elite, LeBron and Jay-Z are sitting around thinking about how to do charity into the black communities. It wouldn't work. Let's just call it out. Tell me when charity from outside of a black community into a black community has worked. Tell me the time. No, I'm asking the question. Tell me the time. Tell me the time that it worked.
What do you mean by worked? Because guys like LeBron, they have scholarship funds set up for
to get out of the black community.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. It's all I'm saying is that the path is either out, get out, Or how? How? And this is Malcolm's point. This is Malcolm's point, is that you don't accept charity from outside. No, you isolate yourself and refuse charitable contributions from outside, and you pull yourself up from within. And look I'm not speaking here because my family didn't buy bread from the Black Panthers. I'm not speaking here because my stepfather didn't work with the Black Panthers in Oakland. He did. We did, as family members. And this is an actual thing. It's an actual movement that permeated through much of America. And we're not making it up. You know what I mean? The people like me who are being vocal about this, we're not making it up because we lived it. You know, we lived it and we watched the obliteration. We watched what happened when it was obliterated. So again, let's critique charity. The rearrangement of societal structural power is not a reality presented as an option or even an ideal, except by the bad guy, right? The remedy presented by the ideal black male king is directly asserting a benevolent monarchical solution to global issues around blackness. I'd like to ask when trickle-down economics or charitable donations from external sources has had long-standing impact in these communities. Unless I'm mistaken, this was Malcolm's point, right? The film in its title and its structural formation pretends to support black separatism. I assert it supports unthinking, nationalistic agendas which reify the powerful and depict the oppressed as endeared with their status in that they are within the society, and hopeless and without agency if they are black and outside of this fantasy land. That's the problem. You're either in the fantasy land and everything's fine, or you're outside and there's no hope. This is not different than the proto-fascist Weimar cinema. This is not different than Metropolis. This is not different than the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, where there's no other options presented. You either submit to the powerful and then maybe things are okay, or you're outcast. You're out. And then who knows what happens to you. Now let's go to my last bullet point here on the ultimate bad guy, right? The one who's truly evil in the end. This man, disturbingly, is the only black American in the film. Right? So the only man who actually speaks with an American black accent, who's from Oakland, California, the home of the Black Panthers, right? Is the only bad guy in the movie. I find this problematic. So he's urban, from Oakland, not a fake African country. He speaks as an American black male. He's also lighter skinned than the other proper black people in the movie. We know that he is, unlike his royal cousins, he has some sort of American mother. Therefore, we infer, let's just skip to the end of the metonymic chain involving cultural, etc., that he's either Hapa Haole, meaning a part white, or he's descended from the institution of slavery, because he's American, or both. Is that not the inference? Is that not the inference that we can see? Let's remember, we haven't even yet elected a president that's descended from slavery. This was a big issue for Barack when he ran. You know, the black community was like, are you really black? Are you really a black American? You know, like, not really, in a certain sort of way. Are these relevant questions for us to think about today? I would say let's not think about them, but the movie's making us think about them. Right? The movie's depicting the light-skinned American black male as the ultimate villain in the movie. Everybody else, all the other black people are fine. So I would say that this villain plays on America's deepest shame and endless fear of the mixing of the races. His political platform was to implement, by any means necessary, a structural redistribution of power across the globe. In the end, he's seen as both radically evil and pitiable. Right? Both, because the good monarchs have feelings. Right? They have feelings, so they feel for him. And that's supposed to make up for everything else that happens. It is even beneath the dignity of the proper black male king to kill his poor cousin, and thus the villain kills himself. So I'm going to repeat this here. The American black male is killing himself. He's killing himself. Is this not what urban black American men are doing? Are they not killing themselves? Right? And we're just supposed to accept this, like, oh yeah, but we have Wakanda, so everything's okay, right? Like, I don't think so. It's more problematic for me. The proper black people look on with relief and pity, content that their insular dominance will prevail, and that this deviant is vanquished. And again, there's no restructure of the coordinates of power within this society. Within either society, everything is reified with the happy ending being, maybe there'll be some charity into these communities. It's insufficient. So the utopian society's depiction engages with all of the fascist aesthetic ideas of Sontag, even pushing the boundaries of some. People are turned into things and animals at the same time. Also, the filmic references to the proto-fascist Fritz Lang film Metropolis are abundant, from the mountain-carved panther mimicking the Weimar machine to the city skyline. They're all Metropolis references. So again, I'm not just a cultural theorist making this stuff up. These are skilled filmmakers that are also drawing on the same comparisons that I am. So, I'm tempted almost to state, but I don't have the time to elaborate, that the hysterical robot Maria is mirrored in the hysteria of the American black male villain. That there's something destabilizing about both characters, right? Because they're the true transgressors. They're the ones trying to reorganize the coordinates of power. They're who are so threatening to this established sort of system. So, returning to Sontag's critique of Riefenstahl, recall she directly applies her criteria to Riefenstahl's work with the Nuba, right, an African tribe. So, it's not like we haven't seen Africanism turned into fascist aesthetics before. Riefenstahl did it, and Sontag called her out on it. So, Riefenstahl's footage and photography of this tribe in the 1960s are strikingly similar to how many of the proper African blacks are depicted, even to some precise movements and markings. Sontag's additional claim that there's a fascist obsession with the body beautiful is well established in the film. In no way am I claiming the filmmakers are making a direct reference to the Nuba, to Metropolis, yes. I don't think they're referencing Riefenstahl's work. I'm not that crazy. However, the criteria applied and the socio-political platform endorsed is complete monarchical control by a hypo-masculinized male, eschewing outsiders and colonizing others. This is the preferred society we are offered. You guys, I watched a similar show called Sophia, produced by Putin's Russia in 2017. It's the same messages. It's the same, the women must be, supplicants to the dominant male, and it's amazing. So if others have previously made these points, I'm sorry I haven't referenced them. I think they're obvious. I don't think I'm making a stretch here. I don't think I'm claiming anything crazy. I think regardless of all of this, it's time for us to stand for multiplicity and the singular experience over binaryism and the loss of individuation. And that's what the movie is arguing against. Really. So, to preemptively respond to the question, are not the S1Ws, this is my footnote. So that's the end of my argument, right? Let's stand for multiplicity and stop the reinstitution of binary logic, the reinstitution of patriarchal order, which is attempting to happen, even through innocent movies like this. It's the same message. I'm saying let's fight that. Let's fight for the multiplicity. Let's fight for individuality. Let's fight for the individual experience over one that only the shared masses and shared community can feel ecstatic about. And I will go ahead and just finish my critique with a more personal plea, and again, of my concern for what I've seen happen in my own lifetime. So, are the S1Ws also displaying the fascist aesthetic when we started looking at Public Enemy? Yes they are. Yes, they are. The S1Ws are fascist in their depiction. I would not even try to argue it. However, in Chuck D's world of pluralism, The S1Ws are watching over Terminator X, Professor Griff, Chuck D, Flavor Flav. Their militarism is not an intrusive presence, rather they reference, maybe more than the Panthers, an even more culturally redacted group, the Guardian Angels. So the work of the Guardian Angels, one has to concede, is difficult to critique. Argue with me. Argue with me the Guardian Angels did something bad. I can't believe it. The work of the Guardian Angels is impeccable. So my gratitude still exists for their patrol of Alphabet City when there was an active rapist in the neighborhood when I lived there in 1994 in pre-Giuliani, New York. And what happened was that when I was walking home from, of course, the New School for Social Research, there was no cops on the corner. There's the Guardian Angels. The Guardian Angels patrolled the community because there was an active rapist present, right? So these were militarized, African-American, slightly Islamic or largely Islamic-leaning males, that wore red berets and white shirts and stood on the corner. I'm sorry, live that experience and try and feel not grateful. Try. I dare you. You will be as concerned as I am. So, no, I don't think that Farrakhan's a prophet that we should listen to. I don't want to argue for that the way that Chuck D did. I think we have time on our side to understand that there's some problems. I'm not arguing that at all. My concern is more functional and pressing. In the ignorance of current day America, are generational Black American Muslims going to be narratively linked to and therefore attacked in a manner similar to the more recently immigrated Muslim communities? I'm actually probably imagining these stories already exist. Right? I just imagine if you're wearing a hijab in America, you're probably having issues. Well, Black American women have been wearing a hijab in America since the 60s, since Muhammad Ali, since Malcolm X. I mean, I don't know what to say. They predate any issues that we had with the Middle East Muslims. What can I say? It's just factual. So, am I saying that Muslim aggression towards Muslim immigrants should be tolerated, but not for the generational African Americans? Of course not. All aggression in this direction should be completely refused. Completely refused. But when it's done in concert with obliterating a part of American history, this is what I have an issue with. So we're going to link together these two communities and then obliterate the entire history of Islam in the African American community. If you think that I'm joking, I would go so far as to say that most Americans under 30 that I know either don't know who Malcolm X is, or they believe him to be a Christian. Something lesser than an MLK. Someone killed sooner. I'm not sure how it's thought about. So I'll just conclude by saying that a militant, principled, Black separatist in life resides in death on a postage stamp. Malcolm X. Buy him on a stamp. So as Chuck D says, most of my heroes don't appear on no stamp. I'm sorry, Malcolm X does now, but robbed of his essence, robbed of his radicalized essence, and sort of whitewashed into just another one of America's, oh, he did something good, but we don't actually have to engage with his ideas. That's the problem for me with Black Panther.
Muhammad Ali, next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do people even realize why his name isn't Cassius Clay? Do we know?
Of course not.
I mean, do they even question it? It's amazing. It's absolutely stunning to me. Do you guys have any questions on any of that?
I do have a question too. Up there, when you say 1994 is pre-Giuliani sweep, are you talking about Mayor Giuliani from New York?
Yes. I was in Alphabet City, so it was different then. It was more, there was lawless. So that's why the Guardian Angels were there. It was pre-Giuliani.
So, was Giuliani also in Oakland?
No,
Right.
no, this is when I was at the New School.
Oh, okay.
So I was living in New York City.
Okay.
So I'm from, originally from more the Bay Area, and that's more my connection to and again, I didn't live, I'm not that old, I didn't live when the Black Panther, I don't remember Hugh, I don't remember any of that, you know. What I remember was already sort of a movement that had been destroyed by the FBI, but they were still doing their bakeries. You know, you could just still go into any old grocery store in my town and you had your choice. Do you want to buy Wonder Bread or do you want to buy the Black Panther's bread? Of course we bought the Black Panther's bread, are you kidding me? It was obvious. And then our money went into their community because they were from within their community producing a product and selling it. I would like to add one other thing in support of the Panthers. They weren't just into Islam, you guys. My stepfather, how he came to work with the Panthers was my stepfather lived in an ashram, an Indian ashram devoted to Hinduism in Oakland. And the Panthers came all the time to check it out. They were spirit seekers. They were open-minded. They kept their bodies pure because they weren't drinking or doing drugs. So they were going around and seeking out all sorts of different ideas. Right? And then the FBI took them down. Took them down. So, and now we don't know who they are. And now we have a movie called Black Panther. It's concerning to me. Did I make my case?